Namaste dosto. Welcome to my stream from the People's Call Center 2025 here in London, India. So yeah, this is the People's Call Center. If you had tuned in to the last two People's Call Centers from the US, we had a lot of fun, right? All the scam baiters on YouTube, we all come together for this event. And what we're doing is we're saving victims and we're disrupting scammers. That's what the People's Call Center is. And so Jim Browning and AnyDesk, they've brought like 30 to 40, scam baiters from YouTube. And we're all in this one building here in London, England. And yeah, saving victims, disrupting scammers. Pleasant Green is here, for example. Pierogi and the Scammer Payback team, the whole team is here. We've got Rosie, you can probably hear her in the background. She's live streaming right now. We've got Kit Boga for the first time here. We've got Trilogy Media. Everybody, all the heavy hitters from the scam baiting world. And then all the smaller guys, you might not know their face because they don't show their face, but they're all here scam baiting as well. Because like I said, there's around 40 different scam baiters here. It's an incredible event. And now in this live stream, it's basically like, it's an anti-scam call center. That's what the People's Call Center is, an anti-scam call center. And oh my God, like it was my first time meeting Kit Boga today, for example. It's just such a cool thing to see all these guys I've seen on YouTube, and I'm meeting them all here. Some of them for the first time. Now in this live stream, we're gonna have some fun. So my main guest is Arvind Gopal. He's a lawyer. He used to work for a big IT tech firm in India, and he was part of the team that would try and take down scam call centers in India. He's a lawyer. So we're going to chat to him about his experiences taking down scam call centers in India, being part of a big IT company. So we'll hear from him. But first, I just want to show you a few goodies I got. And in about 2 minutes, I'm going to run out and I'm going to get Jim Browning. I'm going to get Jim on the stream, ask him a few questions about this event that I'm at. And then we'll get Matt from AnyDesk. He is a real character. We'll get him to say hello too. Then we'll go to Arvind and hear about his experiences. And let me show you let me just check the chat for a second, okay guys? I can see you guys here. Hello. Hello Anu, hello Darren. Hi Amy G. Hey Krish. Hello Mario, I can see you guys. Say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're from as well. I'd love to see where you guys are from. Yeah, man. Muse, something like this exists. It happened 2022 and 2023. We took a break last year, but we're back. Everybody's back in the same place, scam baiting. And actually, I should explain, this is the live streaming room which I'm in right now. And there's only a couple of us in here. The main anti-scam call center is just out this door and around the corner. That's where most of the guys are, but ran out of space there, so I came into this room to do this live stream. So that's where the rest of the dudes are. How to delete, I can see you there, bro. Thanks for commenting. Hey, Bo from Denmark. Anushka, hi Anushka. Marfa, hello Marfa. Okay, I am gonna go and grab Jim and Matt. You're gonna have to give me a minute because they're out there eating pizza. But actually, wait, one sec. I'm not much of a live streamer, guys. But I like to practice. And so look at this. Look at this little badge I have. Let me take it off. Let me show you properly. Look at this cool badge that someone made and gave to me here. Amazing, right? You can go through everybody's little icons. It's got like a computer inside, like a Raspberry Pi inside it. It's cool, right? That's my little badge that I got given. Amazing, right? And I got to show you this jacket, okay? Look at this. Look at this. This is the sponsor, AnyDesk. We've got the English or the British flag. And I can't remember what's on the back. What's on the back, bro?
What's on the back?
Yeah.
People's Call Center 2025.
Ah, that's it. There we go.
Hello, Karl Stream.
Can you guys see?
Nanobator here.
Yeah, introduce yourself, bro.
Hey, Nanobator. I go after internet scammers. You can see me on YouTube, just youtube.com/@nanobator. We're just taking down scammers today.
Yeah, man. Okay, I'm gonna go and grab Jim.
Okay. Sounds good, yeah.
Give me 1 minute and just, you guys on the stream, watch my gear, okay? Make sure no one takes anything. Just gonna put the mic down for a sec. Hello Berlin TV, I can see you guys. 1 sec, guys. And here comes our special guest, guys. Look at this.
Hello. Good morning. Good evening.
You guys all know the voice, don't you?
Yeah. I think I've been on your channel once or twice at this point.
Yeah, you've done a couple of streams with me.
So yeah.
We've had some viral moments, though, man.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest moments in my career was probably collaborating with you. To be honest.
Well, it's good to hear that because I think some of certainly my most famous video, the one that probably maybe put me on the map as a YouTuber, was that very first one in Fairmart Travels.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
yeah,
That got the world's attention, I feel.
it did.
Kickstarted the whole kind of scam baiting.
And-
It inspired a lot of scam baiters, from what I've heard.
And it's the one I'm probably most proud of because I think it was the first ever time that we actually got CCTV of a real life scam call center. And I don't think anything like that ever existed in the past. So that was amazing. You know?
Yeah, that's why it was nice. And what I like about you is you do the investigation, like you focus on the investigation.
Yeah.
That's what I love about your videos. And that was always my angle too. I always love the investigations. Rather than the scam baiting or the trolling, it's the investigation angle that I like. But bro, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Absolutely, yep.
So how did this event come about? How did we end up in London here?
So, up until now, I mean, people, if you watch any of the Scam Baiter channels, you've been to the States a couple of times. I've been there a couple of times. And what we found was a lot of people from Europe, obviously you've traveled it from India, but it's a long way to go is the long and short of it. So there are people who basically would not have been able to make it had it been in the States again. And we have quite a few European Scam Baiters this time around. And because of that, we thought, look, let's change the venue. Let's make it a little bit easier for the European people at least to travel. So there's at least 4 or 5 people who live in and around London as well, who, I don't know if you could be interviewing those as well, but you know, it made things pretty easy. But yes, it was a good venue and relatively simple to get to, so that's why London.
No, it's perfect. We should mix it up. You guys tell me in the chat, where should the next People's Call Center be? I gotta say India. Even though it's there's a few complexities there. But what do you guys think? Let me know which country the next People's Call Center should be in the comments. I'm sitting here reading your comments and managing the stream at the same time, guys.
Not being biased, but I think Kolkata possibly might be out.
Sector 5, Kolkata.
Sector 5, yeah.
You guys think we should host it there?
We have talked about this before. It used to be the scam capital of telephone scam capital of the world. But actually, I've got to say, fair play to the police in Kolkata because things have changed and there are definitely not as many, certainly large scam call centers as there used to be. So things are changing. So whether that's to do with our videos or maybe they're embarrassing the police a little bit, I don't know. But things are changing.
It definitely has something to do with the videos and the awareness that we're raising because it is embarrassing for Kolkata as a city and for their police that this is happening. And because they're not only scamming foreigners now in Kolkata, they've moved on to Hindi scams and scamming Indians. Now that becomes an even bigger problem. So yeah, we could do Kolkata. People are saying Dubai, Kolkata, Australia. I would love Australia.
Yeah, that would be lovely, yeah.
Mexico. Okay. Cube says, so Jim Browning looks as hot as he sounds. Yep, he's a handsome guy.
Thank you so much, but yeah, you're probably better not seeing what's below here, believe me.
No, we're all handsome, us scam baiters.
Hi, Chappie as well.
Art is our leader. We're all inspired by Art and his great body. And
yeah, I recognize quite a lot of the names in the chat here, so yeah, it's an honor to be on Karl's stream, I must say. And I see Sven on there as well. Hi, Sven.
He's there.
I'm so sorry Sven couldn't make it this time around. Sven was supposed to be here. So next time, Sven, please.
Okay, perfect. And so what special tech do we have here this year? Every year there's something new that kind of blows my mind that you guys have whipped up in the back room.
Yeah. This year is a little bit special because we have run call centers before, as you know, and we're able to listen to calls. And occasionally, when scammers play or do their normal kind of play the robocalls, we have set things up so that we become the end of the phone call. So if the victim presses 1, they speak to us instead. We've done that.
Yeah.
Now, this year's a little bit different because we're able to listen to multiple call centers at the same time, and we're able to, for the first time, mute the scammer or the victim, or indeed immediately hang up that call. And it's been very difficult to do that until this moment. So it's the first time we've had that functionality. Again, thanks to some of the developers here. And there's another little tool, which again, one of the kind of developers has been working on this in the background. And I know that quite a few people have been using it in this call center. And it's basically a version of a call center where we inject random sounds into it, including fart noises, and we automatically chipmunk someone, so we make them sound like ridiculous chipmunk, or the demon sound where they reduce the pitch and you sound like, whoa, no girl. So we have been able to do that for the first time. So we've been having a bit of fun as well. I mean, yeah, it's just nice to get one over on scammers that way.
That's awesome. I've been sitting here because Rosie's just opposite me, and I've been she's been laughing her head off. She's been laughing her head off to the fart sounds.
Get louder and louder.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Rosie's in the corner here, yeah. So good luck to Rosie as well. Well, it's an honor being here. So yeah, thanks for coming along to it, Karl. Because a lot of people are here from the US, but you've had one of the longest journeys as well. So thanks for making it.
Oh man, I'll always support. We gotta save people, man.
Yeah.
Gotta help people. That's it.
Thank you for having me along.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate
Thank you
it, mate.
to all the participants. Hit the thumbs up, of course. We do need that too. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Jim.
I will see myself out.
How did you guys like that? Let me get to the chat for a second and see what is going on in the chat.
Get louder and louder.
You're not streaming at the moment,
I'm streaming now.
We're all streaming in here, Jim.
Okay.
This is the stream room.
Yeah.
I can see you there, Sunset Shadow. Thank you so much for the donation. That is absolutely incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. I can't click the thumbs up button on it. I can click the heart. There we go.
They will periodically chipmunk the scammer and
Lucifer. Thank you, brother. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah. Injecting random sounds at inappropriate moments.
Okay, love it.
Yeah, I think we should have the next People's Call Center in Kolkata, you know? That would be the best location. That would freak everybody out in the area. Okay, I'm going to go back out, and I'm just going to find one more guy. I don't know if I'm going to find Matt, because I think he has a meeting right now, but I'm going to go try find Matt because he's hilarious. You guys are going to love him. Just give me 1 sec, all right? All right, sorry guys, there's no Matt. So Matt, he is in a meeting right now. His boss just turned up actually, so he's busy. I'll tell you about Matt. Matt is from a company called AnyDesk, and what they do is remote desktop software, and they are the sponsor of this event. Imagine that, because the scammers use remote desktop software, right, to log into people's computers and to drain their bank accounts. But this is a remote desktop software company that is taking scams seriously, and they're here sponsoring this event and helping us shut down those remote desktop connections when we find them. If we find a scamming user, if we find a scammer using AnyDesk, it'll be shut down within seconds. And they've put in all sorts of controls in place to stop scammers from using their service. All the remote desktop software should be taking scams this seriously. So I just want to say thanks to them for hosting the event and bringing everyone together. And if you want to try out some remote desktop software, like you have to log into your parents' computer to fix it, like I always have to do, you can go after good guys, AnyDesk. That's AnyDesk. I really wanted you to meet Matt. He's the marketing guy, and he's just hilarious. He's a scam beta himself, so he's the perfect guy to, be on the stream. Anyway, let's move on to the next guest. Let's just check the chat for a second, see what's going on there before we bring in Mr. Arvind Gopal. Thank you, Slow Motion. I can see you there, brother. Yeah, Jim Browning on a live stream. I can see you there. Sojino. Thanks. I'm glad you liked the jacket, Royal Zach. It says AnyDesk, and on the back it's got the People's Call Center 2025. I should really take it off. That would be much easier for me to show it to you, right? Zeno, you have a very good question. Zeno says, is the Indian police genuinely investigating these crimes, or is it just a show for the media and a deeper issue of corruption? Yeah, great question, my friend, and we will talk about that soon with Arvind, a lawyer from India. That's the back of the jacket, the People's Call Center, and this is like a real leather jacket. Kia ora, I can see you there, Berrymon. And I showed you guys this earlier, right? This this really cool, necklace. It's a Raspberry Pi, and it shows everybody's logo, so we can walk around with our logos on. Cool, huh? Back to the chat. Matt, been doing great work. Oh yeah. Hi Karl, hope you're doing good. That's from Tanish. Doing great, man. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad that I get invited to this event because I haven't covered scam call centers in a while, but I do always cover like street scams and that type of stuff. So I'm glad these guys still invite me to come along. I love the jacket. Hey, Gaurav. I can see you there, Gaurav. Thank you, bro. Glad you like the jacket. I love it too. Start Living Now says, my home phone here in Canada gets at least 4 calls a day. Yeah. So that was the same situation for my parents in New Zealand, and they got rid of the landline. Now the calls have stopped, and they haven't been calling my parents' mobile numbers, thank God. So that's one way. If you can get rid of your landline and just switch to mobile, they won't call you anymore.
Hello? Hi.
Love it. The jacket goes real nice with a Royal Enfield. Exactly.
I'm good.
Hello, brother. Namaste. That's from Meher. Namaste ji. Very good question. Super. Hello. Okay. Guys, let me just bring Mr. Arvind Gopal into this stream. I'll quickly introduce Arvind. He is a lawyer from Delhi NCR, India, and he used to work for a big tech company in India. And part of his role was to help, or to try and take down scam call centers who were using that tech company's trademark. Okay, so that was his job. I've never seen anyone from that side of the industry, the tech side of the industry, come on a stream and talk about it. So yeah, we're going to talk to him about his early life, why he decided to get into law in the first place. Then we'll go into his legal role at a tech company, focusing on how it shaped his anti-scam expertise. And then we'll talk about factors enabling scam call centers in India and the legal system's strengths and weaknesses. We'll talk about all of that now. Okay, let me just work out the audio. It's going to take me a second, guys. Okie dokie. Where's my stream and software?
Are you slow?
Okay. I'm just switching over to the AirPods. So audio is coming through my AirPods now. Guys, jump in there. Sir Salty has just given 10 gift memberships, okay? Arvind, are you there, my friend? Well, I missed one thing actually. So Arvind is more than just a guest on the stream. He's actually one of my good friends in India, and he's also my lawyer. So he represents me when I have legal issues in India. And believe me, people are litigious in India. They like to file things. So the bigger you get in life, the bigger you get as a public persona, the more kind of legal trouble you attract. So yeah, thank you, Arvind, for being there for me. Arvind was recommended to me through another scam baiter who's in the other room, who I had lunch with yesterday. We sat down for fish and chips. A guy called Neep. He's got a YouTube channel. You can look up Neep scam baiting and you'll find him. And yeah, he introduced me to you, Arvind. And yeah, I knew you were the right guy as soon as I met you because we're very, very similar in a lot of ways. So, bro, let's just start with your early life and how you got into law. So, like, what was your early life like? Where did you grow up? And were there anything that happened in your life which got you interested in law?
Um, Look, not one particular thing. Let's start with this, right? Thank you ever so much for having me here. It's lovely to be part of this community finally. Something that I've advocated for in the past, but I couldn't because I was doing work for a big conglomerate, which didn't allow me to sort of include you all in the work that I did. Having prefaced and said that, um, I grew up in India. I've had it had and this is my 18th year as a lawyer. I've practiced pretty much all over the in different parts of the world, and there was the turning point. Actually would be that um, my parents and I and my school never thought I would make it to law school in the first place, or to any educational institution after school. My parents were smart enough to throw me a carrot at the end of the stick and offer to buy me a bike at that point of time. That kind of egged me on. And the early sort of contributors to becoming a lawyer were sort of, seeded by the fact that my father is a journalist. My mother is very well read and is a history major. So they got me interested and completely made me a voracious reader and fall in love with reading in general. So the first sort of seed was, the acquisition of knowledge, which sort of pushed me towards the law. Of course, this area that I work in was also seeded by my love for intellectual property law in general, which sort of made me study and obtain a master's in that and cyberspace law in specific. Um, and uh, I wanted to be an archaeologist, but here I am and doing what I'm doing currently. But it's been a fantastic ride so far. Last but not the least, to answer this and finish this question, not sound like a verbose individual, is that what fascinated me most was the ability of people to be creative, and that sort of fueled my quest to sort of dig deeper into some of these more creative aspects because of the fact that I played a lot of sports throughout um, till club level. I never played for the state or the country for that matter, sadly. But then I was also a vocalist and playing with four different bands long time ago, and
Ah.
yeah, those were sort of a few things that made me very interested. And then I kind of fell upon the fact that the idea of a third person's perspective being understood by a third person and presenting that third person's perspective to another third person, it was fascinating, right? So that's sorry for the long-winded monologue on that count.
No, that was perfect. And every time I talk to you, I find similarities in our lives, man. Like you love music, but also people told you like you weren't good at school, right? And
Yeah.
I was bad at school. I was horrific at school, and I was always in trouble when people like didn't expect anything from me. Basically, they're like, "Ah, this guy won't achieve anything." And second I got out of school, oh my God, it was like I started achieving. Then I was a straight A
This is
student
great.
at university. School wasn't my thing. I had too much energy. It's a practical guy.
That
I wanted to be fixing computers. That's it.
that resonates with me so much, right? And gaming and computers, all of that fascinated me to know. And yeah, that's that. So as I very succinctly put to people that I was an outstanding student. I saw more of the sky than the inside of a classroom. So yeah, completely resonates with me, Carl.
And so, how did you get into law then? Why did you decide to pursue law?
So I chanced upon an entrance book. Okay, so essentially in India, you need to give entrance exams in order to qualify to get into law school. Um, when I went through it, the scary bit was that it had a math portion which I didn't get whatsoever, but there was an extremely awesome logic portion to it, which I thoroughly enjoyed because it was a question of interpretation there. And that's what the law is all about. It's about interpreting things. and that egged me on to sort of stumble upon this, and then I realized that I was fairly okay at it, so I've continued.
And how did you get a job for this big tech firm in India? Those jobs are lucrative and very, very hard to get.
Uh, I think I was very lucky. I still remember I was an independent practitioner for the most part, bouncing from one place to another, working with a whole bunch of famous names. But, it was far and few between many a times as an independent practitioner. Um, and then, lo and behold, one evening, my girlfriend back then, my wife now, I got an email from this company that I've worked with. Anyone who Googles me will figure out what company I'm referring to.
Mhm.
They had emailed me, and you know this story actually. But I ignored the email for about 48 hours, thinking that it was a job scam for that matter, because those were doing the rounds for the large part, right? And I'd sort of tackled those as well work wise. And my girlfriend shook me up one evening and she said, "Why haven't you responded to this email?" And that response to that email led to a 20-minute call with somebody from the London office who had somehow chanced upon my profile or whatever, whatnot. And LinkedIn, it just sort of was taking the shape that it is today, right? And and they were kind enough to set up a meeting. I was at a court hearing, as always, landed up late for the interview. And I landed up at the wrong building, ended up calling them. They were kind enough to reschedule that interview. And and lo and behold, I was tackling tech support scans for a while after that. So
Yeah,
that's the
so
long and short of that story.
let's talk about that. Like your role in the tech industry. So, as a lawyer for a tech company, what was your role in targeting scam call centers? Because you were in a team which was trying to take down scam call centers and stop them from using this big tech giants, logo. You stop them from using their trademark. So yeah, what was that job all about?
Look, I'll take a step back, right?
Okay.
I I'd had this discussion with my manager as to why they picked me out of the plethora of people that they had on the table, right? And there were some very prominent names at that who had stepped on the table. But what she had said to me at that point of time was no one had the practical experience of going to court and arguing some of these matters. So one of the first few matters that could have helped me step into this world was a matter where there was a big tech or not telecom giant, let's call it that in India, and another publishing agency which is huge. Okay, probably one of the biggest there has been and has been around for hundreds of years. I was representing the publishing agency and talking about pop-ups, and that's where I stepped into this world to begin with. And then the row I took that and broke it down for the court to be able to understand how one computers function, how the internet operates, and then stepped into the world of how pop-ups occur and how they're intrusive by nature, and that intrusion causing a violation of various things. One among them is IP, like you said, using the brand name and etc., trademark, etc., copyright also to a large extent. So those were probably one of the reasons why I got recruited in the first place. Secondly, my team that I had over there was supremely unique because we
Mm.
had a techie, a hardcore techie, we had an investigator, and then we had a couple of lawyers, right? That is my line manager and I, who were heading this globally. So varied set of skills because they were looking at someone who could work with all stakeholders, right? Whether it is internal, which tend to be quite difficult at times, and external, and that poses a very different set of difficulties when you're dealing with whether it's policymakers or law enforcement or even techies in that world, for that matter. So I don't know if that sort of answers your question, but those were the facets that they were looking for, and I'd done a lot of training of the law enforcement in the jobs that I'd done before. I'd done a lot of policy work prior to that because I'd been part of a the drafting of a legislation and presenting it in the parliament. So I'm guessing, those things as a young lawyer that paid a lot of dividends at the end of the day, if you want to call it that. And yeah, that's what my role was essentially.
Cool. So yeah, you had in this tech company, you had a team who were looking at scam call centers. There was a hardcore tech guy, there was a lawyer to explain what all was happening. And can you take us through like a case from beginning to end? How did you find out about a call center and how did it end? And what all did you do in between to, find that call center and take it to court? Can you take us through like one example? You don't have to mention any names, just, an example of the
Okay.
work that you did.
Right. Multifaceted. Again, I'm sorry, it's going to be a little long-winded because
It's
it
okay.
has
Just start from the
multiple.
beginning. From the beginning, like how you found the center kind of thing.
So most of that information came through our techie and our investigator who were working on this issue specifically, right? They would put sort of a dossier together. We direct them on what is the information that we require on the targets that they had sort of shortlisted in some sense, and then cultivate an investigation report on it. So those are the first initial steps, right?
Yeah.
So
So,
we got it.
just one sec, Arvind. Your investigators were looking for scam call centers who were impersonating this IT giant that you were working for. They were pretending to be your company, no? And that's what your
Yeah.
investigators were
So
looking for.
So we had a very eclectic team. Okay, it wasn't just call centers that we were focusing on, but intrusions of any kind, right? And one
Mm.
facet of that was tech support scam because we realized that it was a very high hanging fruit to put it that way, right? So amongst those, when you're sifting through everything, you also sifted through a large number of tech support scam operators who were obviously using various modus operandi over time and that sifting and including how they sifted and what information that they brought back was something that we got involved in. So that was step number one, right? Then step number two would be once that report got generated, then we would sort of put it together and see whether there's any information missing or what we need from an evidentiary standpoint, what can be adduced, and then concurrently, what we'll be doing is what I realized when I got in to the role that I was doing was that, there was a lot of sort of disconnect between a bunch of teams, right? Because in my past experience had taught me that in order to attack something of this nature, it has to be a multi-pronged approach, right? Everything from top, bottom, left, and right has to be attacked together. So the first task on hand was to be aligning all the internal stakeholders, whether it was government affairs, helping us plug into the various government arms, government agencies across the world, including India for that matter, and then bringing them onto the page of making them understand why this is a very important issue to tackle. Getting compliance involved to figure out what are the compliance violations that we can raise and sort of utilize them in some sense. We had to go and through these engagements start training various external stakeholders. Right, that's step number three. I would put it that way because we had to bring a lot of people up to speed and not just India for that matter, but across the board, right? Whether it was not only from an internal standpoint with respect to the company that I was working for, but we tried to build an industry conglomerate where we went to different organizations to come on board because it's
Um,
not just us who was sort of affected, right? We
yeah,
realized there
yeah.
were a multitude of others who were affected, right? Which
Yeah,
you're
there's
very
Norton,
well
there's
aware of.
McAfee, there's IBM, there's all these guys that are being impersonated by scam call centers. Yeah.
Pretty much all the techies that you see out there and the big conglomerates, they've all been infringed upon, to put it in a simplistic manner. So we try to get them all on board and do a collective effort. Now,
Hmm.
you can imagine when you're playing with so many players, it becomes very difficult to proceed even in one action because collective sort of effort in a singular complaint becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
So once we'd gotten it, what we utilized and did was we also used industry-led associations like the Confederation of Industries and other organizations who helped us make the right kind of noise about how this is becoming a problem, right? That was helped us sort of make the right kind of noise internationally as well, because we
Mm,
partnered with a lot of people across the board in governments, law enforcement agencies across the world, and made them understand as to why this is an important issue to be tackled, right? So FCC played a big role. We had a bunch of others, which I'm not going to name, that we sort of partnered with, including some of the most prominent agencies that you can think of in Europe, in England. I know England is part of Europe, but yeah, it's a bit different. The
mhm.
US, Canada. So we worked with a whole bunch of people because you all know how widespread these operations are, right?
Yeah.
Then the next step, I'm sorry, maybe a little hodgepodge, but the next step was training everybody, right? And that we realized was because the complaint had to be filed locally in India, you had to adhere to a lot of parameters here, right? You obviously, because it's a criminal complaint, you need a physical, complainant for that matter, which becomes very difficult in some of these things. Because then we had to convince authorities in order to understand how these things operate, the scam operates at every level. So a lot of training went in, whether it was with the government, whether it was with policymakers, whether it was with the judiciary. So getting them all on the same page. Then the most important linchpin, in my opinion, in many ways, was to get the lawyers on board at the end of
Mm,
the day, we're counsels, right, for a company. But we always need independent sort of counsels to go and argue these matters in court, including what we did, which was very unique, which we did at every juncture, was to appear in court, which is very unique because in a criminal complaint, generally it's the state versus the criminal. The complainant is a mere witness in many ways, right? Technically speaking. So therefore,
yeah.
the participation of the complainant is very minimal. But in this instance, because we bought the technical capabilities and we were extending an olive branch to all of these guys, especially law enforcement,
Yeah.
that let us sit down with you and explain what the issue is and aid you in bringing these guys to the book. That opened
Yeah.
up a lot of doors, actually, and yeah, we sat with a lot of folks from various ministries and etc. across the board, and yeah, it was a large scale operation. It took us about 2 years to put all of this together, and eventually
Let me
that's
just
what.
hold you there,
Yeah.
Arvind. So what you're saying so far is that even though you know where the scam call center is, who's impersonating your big tech company, and you might have all the information on them already. You might know where they are, what infringement's going on, all that stuff you know. The first thing to do is you've got to go out and educate the government, educate all the authorities in India. You've got to go out and start a kind of industry body and get other people who are being infringed on involved. And you're just doing tons of education to tell everybody what this kind of crime is, what this scam call center crime is, because I guess not a lot of people knew about it a few years ago when you were working there. And yeah, that sounds like a lot of work just to educate everybody about what a scam call center is and how they're impersonating the company that you're working for. Is that right?
Yeah, see, that's only one small portion of it, really. Okay, whether
Uh-huh.
the education was so that the activity of sort of tackling these at the minutest level and carry out enforcements and carry out sort of make sure that they're getting sentenced for that matter. Were This was a precursor to all of that, right? Now, the
Yeah.
step after that was the enforcement bit of it, because remember, at the end of the day,
The
if you're not, yeah. So,
like
sorry, please go ahead.
by enforcement you mean the police are going to do something, the police are going to raid, and yeah, is that what you mean by enforcement?
Yes, yes, that's one aspect of enforcement, right? Enforcement has a few arms even in this instance, because one aspect is the actual physical raid being carried out. The other aspect is court enforcing the legislation and bringing the perpetrators to the book. So that's another aspect altogether. In
Yeah,
those two, yeah,
as far as I know, in India, the raids happen. Raids happen monthly, and one just happened 2 days ago. Um, but the other side of enforcement, which you're talking about, when it gets to court, that's when all of these cases fall over. Somehow, so many of them get thrown out of court, and nothing happens to the person running the call center. At least that's been my experience in following these cases in the news. Is that your experience as well? That a lot of these scam call center cases fall apart in court?
look, I can only speak for my tenure at this organization and the years that I've been doing it, right? I've
Yep.
not had an instance so far where we haven't got a result. Not that I'm trying to toot my own horn here, but
Okay, you
because
did
of
get
all the
results in
effort,
court.
yeah, we did.
Okay, cool,
It was the first time
good.
when this was reported globally that we managed to shut down 30 call centers, arrest about 70 individuals. And remember, these are all, they're culpable crimes, but they're not serious offenses, really, right?
Wait.
It's just,
Say
yeah.
that again. The case that you guys were working on was against 30 call centers. I'm only talking about one. You're talking about you guys were trying to take down 30 call centers at once.
We took down 30 call centers. We arrested about
Wow.
70 to 80 individuals. We also did cross border enforcement across the world, and it was widely reported at that point of time. And yeah, it was many,
Wow.
many sleepless nights, lots of evidence gathering, lots of effort to make sure that that evidence was not compromised in any manner, then making sure that it is presented in court correctly, then sitting with law enforcement, after the raid for like 2 to 3 days without sleeping to make sure that they capture it correctly and present it in court correctly. That is what led to those 70 to 80 people being arrested. And not only that, what was the icing on the cake was that none of them were granted bail. It was unprecedented because, in most of these cases, they're granted bail and then the matter just goes on forever and it takes its own course until, they're sentenced, to put it very simply. But yeah, it was a
Wow.
lot of hard work. Everybody got a pat on the back. We got an award for the work that we did. But sadly, thereafter, that department was closed down, so we couldn't really do anything more than what we did then. But yeah, it took a lot of effort on lots of people's parts. We, in
Why would
fact,
they
were trying.
why would they close it down if you guys were so successful taking down 30 call centers impersonating your company?
Uh, I,
If
I'm
that was
not
enough
sure
for
how
them,
to.
they just wanted to do one big bang, like that was it kind of thing. Like maybe they just wanted to do it once.
Not sure what the issue was, but
Okay.
before we came on board, there was very little push and results with respect to this particular aspect. And it's only after this team came together, and obviously there were a lot of other people involved globally as well, and everybody worked towards a singular goal. And we were able to achieve something unprecedented. Yeah, and I couldn't be prouder of the people who were involved and for what everybody brought. And it was a lot of fun. That's all I can say. Lots of
That's
sleepless
amazing.
nights, but lots of fun.
That's amazing. That would have sent out a massive ripple across the Indian call center
Oh,
scene.
it did.
But
It did because we didn't hear of a lot of activity for a while after that. Really,
yeah.
uh,
The only problem is it has to happen every single year because these call centers have come back with a vengeance, and people are like foreigners are losing literally billions of dollars a year. It's in the multiple of billions at this point. So the
it
problem's
was
only
in
got
the
worse.
it was in the multiple of billions when I looked into the matter. That was the only reason why I we were able to convince various agencies and governments to look at it collectively because we made them realize that the exchequer across government bodies is losing so much money. and citizens are completely bereft because of the fact that they've lost out on so much, and sometimes their entire livelihood. And there are so many moving parts. I mean, I haven't even gotten into some of the nitty-gritties, but yeah, you guys are all well aware of how a lot of these things operate at a more minuscule level. So I don't even need to go into some of those aspects.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations on that because taking down 30 call centers and getting sentences, that's difficult in India, I know. And what were some of the
We No,
sentences?
no, there's a
Do you know any?
difference. We didn't get sentencing, but we made sure that they didn't get bail for the longest time. And
Oh,
that in itself is a big step because a lot of these offenses are bailable offenses, which means that you will get bail immediately,
yeah,
right? But that
yeah.
did not happen. So that was absolutely unprecedented. In fact, we
Hmm.
got commendations from the courts and lawmakers because they never thought of arguing something in that manner, right? And we managed to showcase as to how deep seated the fraud was, right?
Hmm.
Where forgery was taking place, which is a serious criminal offense. It was not just impersonation that happens, right? So there was a
Yeah.
lot of things. We talked about the money trail aspect of it and showcase to them where how the money was going. That is when people like the everybody must have heard of the Enforcement Directorate of India and how they got involved, then tutoring them on how to follow the money trail because they're experts at it, but they didn't understand a lot of nuances there. So I had to sit with them in several instances. So it was absolutely unprecedented. So I wish there were convictions because remember, convictions take time. At the end of the day, we were lucky because as complainants, we were allowed to present arguments. It's normally the public prosecutor who is going to be able to present this, right?
Yeah.
And in most instances, in most countries for that matter, having worked in other countries as well, public prosecutors don't have the technical knowledge and they
Mm.
won't be able to present something complex like how a pop-up operates, why does it violate the law, because remember, this is something that I've said for a long period of time. Technology is always about 20 steps ahead, and the law is always going to be catching up. So if you're not sort of thinking outside the box and marrying a lot of different legislations and borrowing from here and there, and presenting that in a plausible manner, it'll become very difficult to enforce something like this altogether. So it's not
Yeah.
as easy as it seems.
Yeah, but Arvind, so are you saying that nobody got sentenced in the end? No one actually went to jail from this?
They were kept in judicial custody. I know that for a fact. But were they sentenced? I didn't hear of that really, to be
Okay,
honest.
yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. Like somehow these things fall apart, and I mean, yeah, I guess we'd have to go back and look and see if they got sentenced because you probably weren't working for the company at the time of sentencing. That would be something to go back and look at.
Uh, yeah. See, look, like I said, this has to be a long-term effort. It cannot
Mm,
be a situation where you're just, playing the whack-a-mole game and you're whacking the mole whenever the gopher sort of steps out of its burrow, right? It has to be a concerted effort where you're blowing things out of the water and you continue to do it in a concerted manner. Um, I don't know why it died out or why people are not doing it on a regular basis, but we had a long list, man. We had a long list of about 250 call centers at the time, and
yeah,
that
there's
that
hundreds.
we no, there's many more than
Have you
that.
ever, Arvind, have you ever thought about what are the factors that make India the epicenter of this scam call center problem? Like, why are there just so many in India?
It's a multitude of factors, to be honest.
Mm,
To begin with, look at the size of India, the population, all that creates pressure in various ways, right? Also, because of the size and the population specifically, there's a lot of people who are to a large extent below the poverty line and just eking out a living or trying to eke out a living, right? with the advent of the internet, which happened in 1998, and the manner in which it's blossomed. Remember, internet is the cheapest in the world in India. So access to a lot of information, tools, etc., also plays a role. Last but not the least, because of the size of it, sometimes governing this country becomes extremely difficult, especially the size of it, the complexities that brings. I'm not trying to defend anyone in specific, but I'm just trying to
Yeah.
tell you what the pitfalls are, right? At the same time, you know, when I started doing some of these matters, working closely with the government at various stages, and especially with law enforcement, I also realized the lack of resources that is available to them. Uh,
Mm.
and the fact that they're not trained, some of them, we had to literally train how to operate a computer, and you were asked to go and investigate a cybercrime. Uh, you've probably not operated a phone or looked at the internet for all you know, right? So how can you throw someone in the deep end in that manner, right? And that was terrible. And remember, I've said this to a lot of people, despite my trepidations regarding law enforcement across the world, and specifically India, having worked here for a long time. Remember, let's take an example of a cop, right? In one single day, he may be put on a traffic beat. Once he's there on the traffic beat, he'll be sent to investigate a murder or a rape or something of that nature, a serious crime that is. On the same day, he might be sent to do a security detail for a politician. And on the same day, he will have to come back and file reports regarding this and possibly investigate a cybercrime matter. So,
Yeah.
so and that in itself, how can somebody be pressurized in order to be doing this in many ways? Having said that, yes, the main issue, I've said it for a long time, and I will say it again, is that the laws exist. It's not that the laws don't exist.
Yeah.
The
Totally.
perennial issue that India has faced is that it lacks enforcement, and that's been a long-standing issue. It's no particular faction that can be blamed for it, but it's been a long-standing issue. But it has improved vastly, even from the time that I was working, on some of these issues on a regular basis in the past. I can tell you that they've come leaps and bounds, and they're far more well equipped. They know what's happening. I recently filed a cybercrime matter which involved a lot of money, and they were very quick to act. So things are improving, but like I
Okay.
said, even across the world, they have a long way to go. Because I remember having to sit with a lot of law enforcement officials across jurisdictions and having to explain to them why a certain act is an IP infringement, for example, and why that is prosecutable, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not as easy as it appears to be. And a lot of, I must say this, you have to be very careful on how is it that you're obtaining evidence, and then whether it is something which is adducible in court. And that's a very thin line at times. Um, which is why my engagement with you all was very limited, for that matter, because a lot of the information was something which I could not deduce in court, although I would have loved to. And I advocated for it to be streamlined and put it into the mainstream. But yeah, that'll have to, again, be a very concerted effort at many levels for that to happen.
And next question. So, to what extent does corruption enable these call centers to operate freely in India? Is that a problem in India? And have you seen any examples of that, of corruption?
Um, Corruption exists everywhere. I've seen it in other jurisdictions as well, and some of the developed nations as well. Because when we were targeting, say, money mules and the trail of money, many of the money mules and the money trail ends up in developed jurisdictions, and they've
Mm.
not been able to track them down or take an effective step towards it. So it's not
Yes, we
that
should. We
corruption
should.
exists only in India.
We should say hello to
Yeah.
Dubai. Hi, Dubai.
So, so yeah, it exists everywhere, and it poses a huge problem. Red tapeism and corruption is was birthed eons ago, and it perpetuates and will perpetuate for eons to come. So, I don't think it's an India-centric problem, really. Yes, it plays a big role. I wouldn't sort of take a step back and not say that.
Mhm. Cool.
As for an example, oh yeah, I can
Yeah, if you
give
have an
you an
example,
example. Yeah,
please.
I have an example. Um, so we were tracking down and had tracked down enough and more information about this large scale uh, call center, which had 500 and more people working and had been working for some time
Hmm.
whilst we did the evidence gathering. Okay. And we went and filed the complaint at a very senior level so that it has a very uh, sort of persuasive trickle down effect. Because remember, at the end of the day, it's a small sub inspector or a havaldar, as they call them here, which is the lowest grades of enforcement officials in the police that you would find, who would be actioning this out. But despite all the effort that we made of going, top down, the FIR was leaked. It was presented. In fact, it was published in toto, something which I had drafted, and yeah, it led to a lot of complications because they disappeared overnight. We knew where they had moved, but no one was willing to take action. So things like that also happen, and we also saw this at other ends because it wasn't. Remember, like I said, it wasn't just the India end that we were tackling. We were
Yeah.
trying to shut them down globally, and we also saw the others disappear very, very quickly with no trace or authorities across other jurisdictions where they were spread in uh, being sort of caught or brought to the book for that matter. So yeah, it was quite disappointing to state the very least.
Yeah. And now, Arvind, can you give us your top three common mistakes that you've seen scam baiters doing? What are three pieces of advice you'd give to scam baiters and say, be careful with doing this? Is there anything?
Um, you
Top three.
know, top three. Okay, let's talk about this. One, i- One, don't put out information without backing it as to what the reasoning behind it is. Giving out PII, you have to be very careful. Privacy is becoming is taking a very centric position. So one has to be very, very careful. Also, at times just simply by stating that what you're doing is in public interest and to create awareness, and the fact that it's educational can make a huge difference in how you can be on the right side of the law, for that matter. That would make a huge difference, really. Second, be very careful when you're intruding in any manner, whether it is talking about the physical intrusion or the digital intrusion that happens. One has to be very, very careful. Last but not the least, which I think is very, very important, two things I will say is one, don't impersonate at any point because that will just make you fall foul of many, many,
Like
uh,
impersonate the police, you mean, right?
yeah,
Because a lot
impersonate
of
the
us do
police.
impersonating grandmothers and that type of stuff, like characters.
Any sort of impersonate. Remember, two wrongs don't make a right. So that's can't be an argument that you could pose. And last but not the least, use terms like allegedly, or appears to be,
Ah,
rather than or suspected, as opposed to saying that everybody knows, but you're innocent until you're proven guilty, and that's the adage that the law follows, and one shouldn't try and fall foul of those things, right? And yeah. These are some of the simplest things that you can do to not fall foul, really. And don't
cool,
reveal identities either. Yeah.
Cool, I got it. So obey privacy rules. That's a really important one these days. State what you're doing is public awareness and educational. Don't hack intrusively. Don't impersonate law enforcement. And be careful with your wording. Don't accuse unless you've got 100% proof. You need to use words like allegedly. Got
Always.
it.
Because see, you're the
Always.
you always you aren't the authority that decides. Neither am I, neither are you. It's the court that is going to decide ultimately. So even law enforcement cannot be using terms or which are definitive by nature, for that matter.
Cool. I want to thank you for coming, Arvind. It was really, really interesting to hear from someone from a legal background who's worked in the scam call center business. Yeah. Thank you so much, Arvind. And yeah, I'll see you soon, okay?
Cheers. Thank you ever so much for having me here, and it was lovely chatting with you. And take care. Look forward to
Yep.
catching up soon.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to reach out to Arvind, I will put his contact details in the description of this video. Bye, Arvind. Namaste.
Cheers. Cheers.
All
All
right,
right, I'm switching back over. I'm going to be in the chat for a bit, guys. Yeah, drop some messages for me. I'll answer a few questions. We'll chat a bit. If you guys turned up halfway into the stream, so let me just check my audio is working. I think it's working. Yeah. If you just turned up halfway into the stream, I'm here at the People's Call Center 2025 in London. And yeah, all the big scam betas from YouTube are here, and we're all disrupting scam call centers and yeah, saving victims. I'm in the streaming suite right now, but just in this massive room next to me, there's 30 to 40 of the top scam betas in the world there. Jim Browning is here. Jim Browning organized this with AnyDesk. We got Pleasant Green. We got Pierogi and the Scammer Payback team. We've got Kit Bolger. We've got Rosie. We got Trilogy Media. Everybody is here, saving victims and disrupting scammers. And I thought, in my live stream here, there's no point me doing scam baiting because I'm not as good as those guys. Those guys are experts in their craft. I like the investigation side, so I thought, let's get Arvind on and let's cover a different angle, the legal side of the call center industry and how he was able to shut down 30 scam call centers in India. 30. We don't know if they ended up with sentences or not, but you know, the scammers did spend some time in jail. They weren't just given bail straight away. Maybe that's as good as it gets. Let me jump over to, I can show you this again. You see my little badge I got given? It's a Raspberry Pi inside. How cool is that? It's got my logo there. I can switch between other people's logos too. I love that. And I got my People's Call Center jacket. Okay, let me see what is happening in the live chat. Love the chat with Arvind. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Gaurav. I knew this would be a niche chat, but I like doing niche stuff. That'll always be there for people who really want to get into the legal side of this. India, this is from Crit Commander. India could use a street justice team to go after scammers in person. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what India needs is a scam call center task force within one of their authorities to go and do that. And I hope one day they do set that up. Because imagine that. They go out, they bust 30 call centers. The word spreads throughout India that there's now a scam call center task force. It'll make a big dent in these guys. These guys are really going to have to hide. But even if they hide, we can always find them, man. Jim Browning, Neep, all these guys can track down the scam call centers wherever they hide. And the scam call centers can't hide because they have so many employees. You know, 30 to 500 employees. Very hard to hide. You get some small ones here and there that are operating from houses, and they might be 5 to 10 people. Karine, I saw your questions there. Thank you so much for commenting. Nicholas, hi there. Trevor, hello. I love seeing you. You're always at my live streams and my premieres. Thank you for being there. The Bashful Scam Beta, hi. Maya. Yes, that's right. In your days, he's saying, yes, Kip Bolger joined the People's Call Center. He is here. He is right outside. I don't know him well enough to bring him in for a stream. I'm sorry. I don't know him well enough. I brought Jim in on the beginning of the stream. Kip Bolger I just met today, and I haven't had a chance to chat with him and invite him on the stream yet. Sorry. He's a friendly dude, though. He's a friendly dude. And I've seen him and Pierogi getting on well. Everyone's getting on here. It's great. Yeah, this Spectre, I talked to Jim at the very beginning of the stream, within the first 3-4 minutes. So go back and watch Jim's little cameo. I talk truth. I like what you've said. Please stop these scammers as they are giving India a bad reputation. Yeah, I think that should be the motivating factor for the Indian authorities to do something against the scam call centers. That these millions of calls that people are making from India to foreigners is destroying India's reputation. And I've got one very sad story about that because it's a real problem. So my mum used to work in a bank and she used to have an Indian colleague. Whenever he would answer the phone at the bank, people would ask, the people calling would say, can I talk to someone else? Because of his accent. Because people are not trusting an Indian accent on the phone anymore. How brutal is that? And so that not only affects Indians answering the phone, but it affects India's own legitimate call center business. You know, because they all have Indian accents now. So these scam call centers destroy India's reputation and they destroy India's legitimate call center business. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. That should be motivation enough for the police and the government to take scam call centers seriously. There needs to be like monthly raids, basically, to put the fear of God into these call centers. Here we go. I talk truth again. He's up with the news. This guy. I talk truth. Indian police said they have. This is his comment. Indian police said they have started Operation Chakra 5 to catch scam call centers. Do you know about that operation, Karl? Yeah, I saw the tweet 2 days ago. So let's hope that those raids continue, because they did do a raid 2 days ago. They do small raids every month. Like, things are happening. Just needs to be a real, just needs to be a bigger effort and an effort that's more in the media, you know, to spread the word that India's coming for these scam call centers. Hi Trupti Patel, hello, I can see you there. And Nushka B says, Operation Chakra 5 has started. They raided a lot of call centers last week already and have made a few arrests. Great, that's exactly what I want to hear, Anushka, perfect. Let's hope that keeps going. Athena says, is Dan Gleeballs there? Yes, he is. Me and him got on really well, really well. I met him yesterday. Yeah, he's a great lad. I think I'll hopefully meet him in his hometown in a week or so. I haven't asked him yet, but I will ask him. I like him a lot. Okay, I'm in the comments. I'm just scrolling through. There's so many. Some of them are quite long. Yeah, this is from, I think it's Siri. She says, I work, or he, I don't know. I work for Apple's phone tech support, and a lot of Indian colleagues, a lot of them quit because no one trusts them because of their accent, because of what scam call centers have done, have destroyed, you know, India's reputation. That's a real shame. It's a real shame. Yeah, and then Rob says, to add to that, kids here in the UK of Indian descent are getting bullied and being called scammers. That's horrific, man. That's horrific. And it's stupid to bully people like that too. They got nothing to do with it, most people, you know. It's just a few rotten eggs spoiling it for 1.4 billion lovely people there. And I know that because I live in India. My family's Indian. Most people are absolutely lovely. And you know what? It's not just foreigners getting scammed anymore. It used to be just foreigners they were calling and scamming. There's now scams in Hindi. And they're scamming Indians across India. So now Indians are being scammed too. So maybe that will make the police take it more seriously now. I used to think that Indians were scam proof, that they were so street smart, but then I started hearing of my friends' parents who were getting scammed over the phone, and I was like, oh man, no, they're not as street smart as I thought. Everyone's susceptible to these phone scams. Start living now. In 2024, Canadians lost over 638 million to fraud. Yeah, yep. The number's in the billions for worldwide, like multiple billions. Nice jacket. Thank you, Hamid. Thank you, Hamid, brother. Okay, guys, going to wrap this up in a second. I'm not a live streamer kind of guy. I love making my vlogs. I find live streaming a bit, makes me nervous. I don't know why. But I'm glad you guys are here and sticking with me and hanging out. It's nice. I do like the interactivity of it. You know what I mean? But I'm not much of an interviewer. I try my best for you all. Maybe if I kept doing it, I'd get used to it, but you got to keep organizing guests and all this type of stuff. And I'm always traveling. Electro says scam call centers will never stop, just like the mafia and drug trafficking. Yeah, they'll always find a new location to run from. Maybe all the operators just start running from home, as we've seen. So they still operate with a big workforce, but everyone's sitting in their homes. Possible. Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Thank you, Simba. We love you, Karl. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, guys. We're all us scam betas are going out for dinner tonight. Yeah, we're gonna have some good old Indian food. That's what we're doing tonight. Now, if you look up like People's Call Center on YouTube, if you go to Rosie's channel, if you go to Jim, Kitboga, Pleasant Green, you should find some of these guys streaming from here as well. I'll be making a reel. I'll be making a video tomorrow. I'm filming a video for you here tomorrow, and I'll try to release that as soon as possible. Hopefully Friday or Saturday, but I'm traveling so much, but I'll try. So yeah, I'm going to end this stream here and just say thank you guys all for coming and always supporting me, for being so kind in the chat. Like, haters don't come to this. It's just such a nice environment that I've managed with this community. So yeah, it's all because of you guys, so thank you. And